Malcolm Everett stands cuffed in an Atlanta precinct, two racist cops smirking as they toss his badge, police chief, onto a cluttered desk, believing they've snared a nobody in their petty trap. Their night of brutal arrest unravels fast, slurs still echoing, as Lieutenant Grace Palmer storms in, barking his title, their smug faces draining white. Malcolm's calm hides a brewing tempest. This fleeting wind teeters, their hate unbroken, a night poised to scar his career, city, and soul forever. What's their next strike? Hey, where are you watching from? If justice drives you, hit like and subscribe for more. The Atlanta evening drapes itself in a sticky, humid haze, the kind that clings to skin and weighs down the air as dusk settles over Peachtree Road, a quiet stretch lined with modest homes and flickering streetlights. Malcolm Everett steers his gray SUV through the suburban calm, the engine humming low, the tires whispering against asphalt still warm from the day's 80-degree heat. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, his suit a charcoal two-piece crisp despite a marathon of community meetings downtown. His third week as Atlanta's police chief, a role he's taken with a reformer's quiet fire. His bald head catches the faint glow of passing lights, his dark eyes fixed ahead, mind drifting to his daughter's macaroni art waiting at home, a rare smile tugging his lips. The clock on the dash blinks 6:30, and he's cruising at an easy 30 miles per hour in a 35 zone. No rush, no fuss, just a man heading to his family. Then the world shifts. Red and blue lights flare in his rearview mirror, slicing through the twilight like a jagged warning, their pulse quickening his own. A patrol car, a white cruiser with a dented fender, roars up behind him, its siren wailing sharp and sudden, cutting through the evening's hum. Malcolm's hands tighten on the wheel, just a fraction, his breath catching as he flicks his gaze to the speedometer. 30. Steady. No violation. His taillights glow red, brake lights intact. No weave. No swerve, nothing to pull. Yet the siren insists, a shrill command, and his jaw sets, a muscle ticking beneath his calm. He knows this dance. Hands visible, movement slow, voice even. Not because he's ever broken a law, but because he's learned the cost of being black behind the wheel, even with a badge in his pocket. He signals right, the blinker clicking, steady, and eases the SUV onto the gravel shoulder, tires crunching soft, the patrol car screeching to a halt inches from his bumper, its lights bathing the scene in a hectic strobe. Malcolm exhales, muttering, "Stay calm," to himself, his voice low, a mantra drilled deep from years of navigating a world that sees his skin before his soul. He cuts the engine, the silence sharp, and places his hands at 10 and 2, palms open, fingers still, his suit jacket creasing slightly against the seat. The rear view shows two figures emerging, Officers Kyle Brantley and Tom Hicks, both white, both mid-30s, their uniforms wrinkled from a long shift, their steps heavy with purpose. Brantley's lean, wiry, his blonde hair buzzed short, his flashlight already swinging like a baton. Hicks is stockier, broader, his brown hair thinning, his hand resting on the holstered Glock at his hip, a casual threat. Brantley reaches the driver's window first, his boots kicking up dust, his flashlight beam slashing through the dim interior, blinding Malcolm for a split second before it dances over his face, his lap, the console. "Out now." Brantley barks, his voice a gravelly snap, dripping with suspicion, his blue eyes narrowing as they lock on Malcolm's steady gaze. Hicks lingers near the rear bumper, his stance wide, his fingers twitching near his gun, a silent backup to Brantley's. "Lead." Malcolm keeps his hands up, his tone even, firm, cutting through the humid stillness. "Good evening, officers. May I ask why I've been stopped?" His words are polite, measured, a shield he's honed, but Brantley's lip curls, a sneer flashing quick. "You people always rush," Hicks mutters from the back, loud enough to carry. His voice thick with disdain, the "you people" a jab that lands like a fist. Brantley doesn't flinch, just keeps the flashlight steady, its glare a probe, his silence a wall. "License and registration," he orders, ignoring Malcolm's question, his tone clipped, a command, not a request. Malcolm nods, slow, deliberate, narrating every move. Protocol he's taught, lived. "I'm reaching for my registration in "The glove compartment," he says, his right hand drifting to the latch, fingers steady despite the weight of their stares. The box clicks open, papers rustling as he pulls the document free. His left hand still on the wheel, visible, safe. "My license is in my wallet, inside my jacket pocket. I'll retrieve it now." Brantley's posture stiffens, his flashlight jerking slightly, his eyes darting to Malcolm's chest as if expecting a weapon, not a wallet. Hicks shifts, his hand tightening on the holster, his boots scuffing gravel, a predator's twitch. "You in a hurry tonight?" Brantley asks, his tone mocking now, the question a trap. Though he hasn't offered a reason for the stop, Malcolm keeps his face neutral, his voice calm, unshaken. "No, sir, just heading home after a meeting." The lie's theirs. He's done nothing, but the truth doesn't matter here, not yet. Brantley's beam lingers on his face, too long, a silent judgment, then flicks down, probing the floorboards, the seats, hunting for a fault he's already decided exists. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Brantley says, his voice a drawl now, rhetorical, a game he's playing alone. Before Malcolm can answer, Brantley leans in, close enough his breath, stale coffee and cigarettes, hits Malcolm's face. "You were driving erratically back there, swerving into the other lane." The accusations are brick, heavy, false, and Malcolm's brow furrows, his calm cracking just a sliver. "With respect, sir," he says, his tone still even firm, "I wasn't swerving. My dash cam can verify that." The words are a lifeline, a fact he knows holds. His SUV rigged with the tech every chief should have. Proof against lies like this. Brantley cuts him off, sharp, his flashlight jerking. Up to blind Malcolm again. "Dash cam, huh?" he snaps, a sneer twisting his lean face. "That'll be confiscated for evidence. Step out of the vehicle." The escalation's sudden, a jolt, and Malcolm blinks, surprise flickering through his steady mask, his stomach tightening under the suit. "Is there a problem, officer?" he asks, his voice still measured, firm, a thread of steel beneath. "I'm complying fully." Hicks steps closer now, his bulk looming at the rear, his hand firm on the Glock, his brown eyes glinting with something darker, anticipation, maybe hate. Brantley's jaw tightens, his flashlight steady, his order a growl. "I said step out, now!" The air shifts, heavy with intent, and Malcolm knows this isn't a stop, it's a hunt, their racism naked, no cause but his skin. He unbuckles slow, hands raised, the click loud in the quiet, and opens the door, gravel crunching under his polished shoes as he steps out, suit jacket catching the breeze. Hicks moves in fast, his meaty hand yanking Malcolm's arm, cuffs gleaming, their gotcha unspoken but clear. Malcolm's calm holds, but inside the storm brews. This is just the start, a spark of hate they'll fan into something uglier. A night he'll survive but not unscathed. The Atlanta dusk hangs heavy with humidity on Peachtree Road, the gravel shoulder crunching under Malcolm Everett's polished shoes as he steps out of his grey SUV, hands raised in clear view, the air thick at 75 degrees against his charcoal suit. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered. Atlanta's new police chief, 3 weeks into a role he's taken with quiet resolve. And now he's pinned under the flashing red and blue glare of officers Kyle Brantley and Tom Hicks's patrol. Car its siren silent but its threat loud. Brantley's lean frame looms at the driver's side, his blonde buzz cut catching the fading light, his flashlight a slashing beam, while Hicks's stockier bulk hovers at the rear, his hand firm on his holstered Glock, his brown eyes glinting with menace. The stop's baseless. Malcolm's 30 miles per hour was steady, no swerve, no violation. But their racism's a live wire, Brantley's out now still echoing, Hicks's "you people always rush," a venomous jab that's landed. While Malcolm stands tall, his hands steady despite the tremor beneath his calm, his voice firm as he faces Brantley's glare. "Officers, I'm complying. May I know the charge?" His tone's a shield, polished from years of navigating prejudice, but Brantley's lip curls, his flashlight jerking to blind Malcolm again, a silent dismissal. "Spread 'em," he snaps, stepping closer, his breath stale coffee and spite, hitting Malcolm's face, his wiry arm shoving Malcolm back against the SUV's warm metal. Hicks moves in, his boots scuffing gravel, kicking Malcolm's legs apart with a rough shove. His resisting, a lie hissed low, a pretext they've already scripted. Malcolm's jaw tightens, his I'm complying, clear, deliberate. But it's a match to their fuse. Brantley's fist flies, slamming Malcolm's jaw. A crack splitting the night, blood bursting hot from his lip as his head snaps left. The world tilts, pain flaring white hot, but Malcolm keeps his hands up. His training, chief or not, kicking in, his voice a rasp through the sting. I'm not resisting, stop this. His suit jacket rips at the shoulder as Hicks grabs his arm, yanking him down, gravel biting his knees through his slacks, the dash cam rolling silent witness from the SUV's windshield. Brantley snarls, "Black trash don't run this town." His racism a hammer swinging again, another punch, this one to Malcolm's gut, air whooshing out, his ribs creaking under the blow. Hicks joins, his meaty fist cracking Malcolm's cheek, blood trickling warm down his face. Their hate a storm, unleashed, no cause but his skin, their shut up. A growl as Malcolm's "you're breaking the law" cuts through. Ignored. They slam him down, face first into the gravel, pebbles gouging his forehead, his arms pinned as Brantley's knee digs into his back, a savage weight that grinds his chest against the ground. Hicks kicks his side, a dull thud, ribs bending, pain exploding, and Malcolm gasps, blood pooling in his mouth, his suit a ruin of dust and red. "Think you're smart," Brantley hisses, his flashlight dropping to club Malcolm's shoulder. A bruising jolt, while Hicks stomps his leg, aiming for the knee. A twist that wrenches a grunt from Malcolm's throat. The assault's a blur, fists, boots, slurs, a choreography of hate. Their "stay down, boy," a chant that strips him to nothing, their power a badge they wield like a blade. Headlights flash, a semi-truck rumbles past, its horn blaring. Sudden sharp cutting through the haze, and the driver, a burly man with a grey beard, slams his brakes 50 yards up, gravel spraying as he leaps out, phone in hand, yelling, "I'm calling 911!" Brantley freezes, fist mid-swing, Hicks's boot hovering, their faces twitching as the trucker's voice booms. "Got it on camera, back off!" Sirens wail, distant growing cops responding fast, their red and blues cresting the hill, and Malcolm's down. Blood streaking gravel, his breath ragged but alive, his hands still raised, proof of compliance they can't erase. The patrol. Cars screech in, 3 lights blinding, and Lieutenant Grace Palmer storms out, a 40-year-old black woman, her uniform sharp, her voice a whip. "Stand down, now!" Brantley staggers back, Hicks too, their hands up, their smirks faltering, as Grace strides over, her dark eyes blazing, kneeling by Malcolm, her Chief Everett. A shock that hits them like a brick. Malcolm nods, slow, blood dripping, pulling his badge from his jacket, gold gleaming Atlanta PD Chief. And their faces drain. Brantley's blue eyes wide, Hicks's brown ones darting, their "no way," unspoken but loud. Grace hauls them off, her "you're done" a growl, cuffs snapping on their wrists, their racist game flipped. Malcolm's title a shield, he thinks, his win sealed as medics rush in, sirens fading, his bloodied suit a testament they can't deny. But it's a shaky win, a mirage in the dust. Brantley's glare cuts through the chaos. Hicks's too, their hate unbowed, their "this ain't over," a silent vow as they're shoved into a cruiser. Malcolm's freed, standing, his jaw throbbing, ribs aching, thinking justice holds. Dashcam witnesses Grace, but their eyes burn, a promise of revenge sharper than fists, a storm brewing bigger, uglier, a fight he's sparked but not finished. The precinct looms ahead, this night a scar he'll carry, his victory a breath before their hate strikes back meaner, deadlier. Does Malcolm's calm under this racist beating show he's tougher than Brantley and Hicks expect? Or are their glares proof they'll never back down? Comment number 1 if you think his strength will outlast their hate. Hit like if you're raging at this injustice. And subscribe for the next wild twist. The fight's just starting. Stick around. Now imagine the stakes rising. Malcolm's free, but with these cops plotting, what's the next vicious move they'll pull to flip his win into their trap? Get ready for the chaos ahead. The Atlanta precinct buzzes with a chaotic hum under the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, the air stale at 70 degrees as Malcolm Everett sits in a holding cell, his charcoal suit torn and bloodied, his jaw throbbing from Officer Kyle Brantley's fist, his ribs tender from Tom Hicks's kick. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief, 3 weeks into a role he's wielded with quiet steel, and now he's cuffed, gravel dust clinging to his slacks, blood crusting on his lip from the roadside beating on. Peachtree Road. The dashcam rolled. The trucker witnessed. Lieutenant Grace Palmer intervened. Brantley and Hicks's faces paled when she barked his title, their racist assault flipped by his badge. But Malcolm's calm masks a storm, his victory teetering as they're dragged off, their glares promising more. The cell's a concrete box 8 by 10, its bench cold against his back, the clang of the door still echoing as Grace stands outside, her uniform crisp, her dark eyes sharp with fury. "Chief, this is a disgrace," she says, her voice low, controlled, her 40-year-old frame taut as she grips a clipboard, his badge, gold, gleaming back in his pocket after she freed him. "Dash cam's clear. You didn't resist. They attacked. They're suspended pending IA." Malcolm nods, slow, wiping blood with a sleeve, his breath steady despite the ache. "Good," he rasps, his tone firm. "But they're not done. Watch them." Grace frowns, her "I will" a vow, but the precinct's chaos swallows it. Phones ringing, officers shuffling, Brantley and Hicks hauled to booking, their smirks intact. They're not silent long. At booking, Brantley, lean, blonde buzz cut, blue eyes glinting, leans against the counter, his wrists cuffed but his voice sharp as he dictates to a desk sergeant, a wiry man with glasses who types fast. "Hair salt on an officer. Everett swung first, resisted arrest," he says. His lie smooth, a racist script rehearsed, Hicks nodding beside him, his stocky frame slouched, his brown eyes darting, adding, "Threatened us. You'll pay for this." The sergeant hesitates, glancing at Grace, but logs it, their suspension a slap when charges should crush. Evidence shifts. Hicks slips a bag of pills, small white, into Malcolm's SUV glove box during the tow. His "found this," a smug whisper to Brantley, their frame up a blade sharpening, unseen by Grace's sweep. Malcolm's released by 8. The precinct's hum fading as Grace escorts him out. Her "we've got the cam" trucker's statement, their toast a lifeline he grips, his suit a ruin but his badge a shield. He limps, the beatings toll, his SUV impounded, dashcam seized, and he rides with Grace, her cruiser cutting through Atlanta's night, the skyline a blur of lights against a 70-degree dark. "They'll twist it," he warns, his voice low, firm, blood drying on his chin, and Grace nods, her "not on my watch" fierce, her hands tight on the wheel. He's home by 9, wife, Lena, gasping at his face, daughter Maya clinging, his "I'm okay" a lie they see through, and he thinks it's over. Brantley and Hicks cornered, his title a hammer to smash their hate, but it's a mirage. By dawn, internal affairs calls. Captain Danvers, a gruff white man with a smoker's rasp, his evidence missing, a gut punch through the phone. Dashcam's gone. Truckers recanting, says he saw you swing. Pills found in your car. Assault. Possession charges pending. Malcolm's stomach drops, his kitchen still, Lena's coffee mug frozen mid-lift, Maya's crayons pausing, his "that's a lie" sharp, useless against their web. Grace storms in an hour later, her uniform rumpled, her "they've rigged it" a hiss, the precinct's leak a snake. Brantley's buddy in evidence swapped the cam, Hicks's cousin scared the trucker silent, their frame-up sticking, a racist? Noose tightening around his neck. He's at headquarters by noon, his office a stark box, desk, chair, city seal, his arm aching, ribs protesting as he sits, Grace pacing, her clipboard slamming down. They're suspended, but IA's buying it. "Chief attacked us," they say, she growls, her dark eyes blazing, and Malcolm's calm cracks, his fist clenching, blood flaking from his knuckles. Dashcam showed nothing. They're burying it, he says, his voice steel, knowing their hate's a machine grinding his wind to dust. Lena calls, her "stay safe" a plea, Maya's "daddy" a stab, and he vows, fight, expose, but the precinct's a hive, whispers buzzing, officers. Glancing, their trust wavering, his badge a target now, not a shield. Brantley struts at roll call, suspended, uncuffed, a loophole's Grace. His lean frame slouched against a wall, his smirk a blade as he catches Malcolm's eye across the room. His "chief or not, you're ours." A taunt loud in the silence. Hicks beside him, stocky, sneering, their racist game unbowed. Grace orders them out. Now! Her voice a whip, but they linger. Hicks muttering, "Pills'll stick." Their suspension a pause, not a fall. Their frame up a storm, breaking harder, uglier. Malcolm stands, his suit patched, blood washed, thinking justice holds. Grace. IA truth, but their glares cut deeper. A promise of revenge deadlier than fists. His victory a breath before their hate strikes back, a noose he can't slip yet. The Atlanta night cloaks the city in a heavy, humid shroud, 5 days after the precinct framing. The air thick at 72 degrees as Malcolm Everett steers his grey SUV away from police headquarters, the skyline's lights fading in his rearview mirror. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to shape with quiet resolve, and now he's battered, his jaw bruised from Officer Kyle Brantley's fist, his ribs tender from Tom. Hicks's kick, his suit patched but stained from the roadside beating on Peachtree Road. The false charges, assault, possession, linger, internal affairs stalling, the dashcam gone, pills planted. But Lieutenant Grace Palmer's holding the line her will clear you a tether he clings to. He's free, his badge a shield. Thinking he's beaten their racist frame-up, the precinct a battleground he's still commanding. It's 9 sharp, I-85, a ribbon of asphalt stretching dark ahead, the SUV's engine humming low, his hands steady. On the wheel, despite the ache in his left arm, the beatings echo. Traffic's thin, headlights sporadic, taillights dwindling, and Malcolm's mind drifts to Lena's worried call, Maya's, "Come home, Daddy." His resolve steeling. He'll fight, expose, win. Then the night explodes. A black pickup, jacked up. Tires, no plates. Swerves from a merging lane, its grille a snarling beast ramming his SUV's rear with a bone-rattling crunch. Metal screams, the wheel jerks and Malcolm slams the brakes. Tires skidding, his ribs flaring as the SUV spins off the highway, crashing into a ditch, gravel spraying, the hood buckling against a pine. Glass shatters, the driver's window, a bed smashing through, and 3 masked men leap from the pickup, their boots pounding dirt, their shouts muffled but venomous. Malcolm's trapped, seatbelt cutting his chest, his hand fumbling for his Glock in the console, but they're fast. Brantley's crew, he knows, their lean builds, their hate a signature. One yanks the door, ripping it open, and drags him out. His suit tearing, gravel gouging his knees as another swings, bat cracking his arm, bone snapping, pain a white-hot blaze roaring up his shoulder. "Black Chief's done," the leader bellows. Brantley's voice unmasked now, his blonde buzz cut glinting, his blue eyes wild, and a third bat slams Malcolm's ribs, a sickening thud, blood bursting in his mouth, his breath stolen. They swarm, their racism a roar. Hicks's stocky frame looms, unmasked too, his brown eyes glinting as he stomps Malcolm's leg, knee twisting, agony exploding, his "stay down trash," a slur that cuts deeper than blows. Bats swing, shoulder back ribs, bones creaking, blood pooling dark on gravel. Malcolm's Glock lost in the chaos, his hands clawing dirt, his voice a rasp. "You're finished," choked through pain, ignored. "No black man rules us." Brantley snarls, his bat cracking Malcolm's temple, stars bursting, blood streaming warm down his face. Their hate a storm intent on breaking him, killing him, their frame up a prelude to this savage erase. Headlights flare, a patrol car, siren, screaming, cuts through the dark. Tires screeching 50 yards up as 2 officers leap out, guns drawn, shouting, "Freeze!" Brantley swings once more. Malcolm's side, ribs snapping, then bolts, Hicks and the third man scattering. Their pickup roaring off, taillights vanishing into the night's black maw. Malcolm's down, blood soaking gravel, his arm limp, ribs shattered, breath shallow but alive barely, his suit a ruin, his badge a glint in the ditch. The officers rush in. One, a young black woman, kneels, her Chief Everett. A gasp as she spots it, the other, a white vet radioing. "Ambush, I-85, 3 suspects fleeing, send backup." Medics swarm, lights flashing, Malcolm's lifted, his get them a croak, his winner pulse flickering, he's alive, they're caught, he thinks. Grady Hospital's ER blares with urgency. Gurney's clatter, monitors beep. Malcolm's wheeled in, arms splinted, ribs taped, blood cleaned, his badge back in Grace's hand as she storms through, her uniform rumpled, her We've got Brantley, Prince, on the bat, a lifeline he grips. Hicks is loose, the third man too, but Brantley's nabbed, cuffed in a raid, his lean frame slouched, his "he attacked us," a lie, crumbling fast. Suspended, turned to arrested. Malcolm's survival there, trap flipped, justice clawing back, he thinks. Grace's "you're safe" steadies him. Lena's tears at his bedside, Maya's hug. His family's here, Atlanta PD rallying, his win solidifying as Brantley's locked, Hicks hunted. But it's a spark, not a fire. Hicks slips bail by dawn, vanished. A ghost, his brown eyes burning in Malcolm's mind, his "we'll bury you" a vow whispered to a jail guard, a promise of revenge sharper than bats, deadlier than fists. Grace's cruiser patrols. Malcolm's arm throbs in a sling, ribs screaming, but their hate's a wildfire, spreading, not dying, a storm brewing bigger, uglier, his victory a breath before their next strike crashes, a blade he can't dodge. Yet, does Malcolm's survival against this racist ambush prove he's a chief they can't break, or is Hicks's escape a sign their hate's too deep to stop? Comment number 1. If you think Malcolm's tougher than their worst, hit like if you're fired up for his fight, and subscribe for the next wild turn. Justice hangs by a thread, don't miss it. Now picture the heat cranking up. Hicks is loose, plotting. How's he about to turn Malcolm's hard-won survival into a bigger, bloodier nightmare? Brace for the chaos coming next. The Atlanta dawn breaks grey and cool at 65 degrees a week after the I-85 ambush. The hospital's sterile hum fading as Malcolm Everett steps onto the precinct steps, his left arm slung tight, his ribs taped beneath a fresh suit. Navy, pressed, a shield over the bruises, Officer Kyle Brantley's bat carved into him. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief, 3 weeks into a role he's clung to with quiet steel. And now he's battered, his jaw scabbed, his leg limping from Tom Hicks's stomp. The roadside beating and ditch assault a scar he wears. Brantley's cuffed, Prince on the bat, arrested. Hicks loose, their frame-up assault pills shattered by Lieutenant Grace Palmer's fight. Malcolm's survival a win he thinks holds, his badge a hammer against their racist hate. It's 8 sharp, the precinct bustling, phones ringing, officers glancing when Grace meets him. Her uniform sharp, her dark eyes steady, her Brantley's locked, Hicks hunted, a lifeline he grips, her clipboard thick with reports, dash cam. Gone, trucker silenced, but ambush evidence solid. Malcolm nods, his voice firm despite the ache. Push the manhunt. Hicks won't stop. And she salutes, her "yes, chief" a vow as he limps to his office, a stark box, desk, chair, city seal. His arm throbbing, ribs protesting, Lena's "come home safe" echoing, Maya's hug a warmth he clings to. He's back, commanding, reforming, thinking their hate's cornered, his city his again, a victory snatched from blood and gravel. Then the storm breaks. By noon, Atlanta erupts. A rally swells outside City Hall, hundreds strong, Confederate. Flags snapping in the breeze, chants of "Free Brantley" rolling like thunder through downtown's glass towers. Pickup trucks clog Peachtree Street, horns blaring, red hats and denim clotting the plaza, their shouts a venomous tide. "Chief, framed us!" Hicks's voice cutting through, unmasked now, his stocky frame pacing a makeshift stage. His brown eyes wild, his "Everett's a liar," a rallying cry. Malcolm watches from his office window, blinds cracked, his arm sling tightening, ribs flaring as the crowd roars, "Justice for our boys!" Their racism a noose tightening, his win a spark they're fanning into fire. Grace bursts in, her uniform rumpled, her Hicks hijacked it, a hiss, her radio crackling. Cops on scene, outnumbered, batons drawn but wavering. He's loose, slipped. Fail riled them up, she says, her dark eyes blazing, and Malcolm's calm cracks, his fist clenching, blood scabs flaking. "Get SWAT! Shut it down!" he orders, his voice steel, knowing Hicks's hate's a wildfire, Brantley's arrest a match they've lit. The rally grows, 500 now, flags waving, bottles smashing as Hicks screams, "Black Chief kills us!" Flyers flood the streets. Everett's vendetta, their frame-up reborn, uglier, bloodier, a public storm. Malcolm's survival can't quiet. He's in court by 3, a downtown chamber, wood-paneled, air thick at 70 degrees. The judge, a stern white woman, her robes crisp, her gavel banging as Malcolm testifies. His suit a banner, his sling a testament. They ambushed me, Brantley, Hicks. Racist hate no cause, he says, firm. His jaw tight, ribs aching, Grace beside him. Her dash cam report, recovered. Played, no swerve, their fists, his calm. Brantley's convicted, 10 years. Hicks, charged in absentia, life looming. Malcolm's charges, assault, possession, dismissed. The judge's justice served, a thud he grips, his badge gleaming. Atlanta PD rallying. Cops. Citizens, his win solidifying, he thinks, their hate caged, his city his again. But it's a breath, not a bomb. Dusk falls, 6 sharp, and Hicks strikes, a ghost uncaged, his racist fury a bomb. A precinct substation explodes, 3 blocks from headquarters. A fireball shattering glass, 3 officers dead, flames licking the night, sirens screaming as Malcolm races over, his sling tearing, ribs roaring, Grace's cruiser screeching. Beside him, "Hicks!" she yells, her voice raw, wreckage smoking, radios, desks, lives ash, and flyers rain. Black Chiefs war, their lie a blast louder than the blast, pinned on Malcolm's vendetta, their hate a noose snapping, tight. He stands, blood dripping from a fresh cut, glass shard, his find him a growl, cops scrambling, Atlanta's trust fracturing, his win a spark in a blaze he can't quench. Grace digs, Hicks's prints, a witness, his Everett's next, scrawled on a wall, and Malcolm's arm throbs, his ribs scream, but he's chief, unbowed, thinking, fight, hold, win. His city teetering, public support surging, then cracking, their racist storm a tidal wave he's weathered, he hopes. Hicks's hate's a wildfire, spreading, not dying. Brantley's cell a stage, not a grave, and Malcolm's victory. Court survival, a pause before their next strike crashes. Meaner, bloodier, a reckoning he can't dodge yet. The Atlanta night hums with a tense electric stillness 2 days after the substation bombing. The air crisp at 60 degrees as Malcolm Everett stands in the precinct's command center, its walls lined with maps and screens, his left arm slung tight, his ribs throbbing beneath a navy suit patched over the bruises from the I-85 ambush. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to hold with quiet resolve, and now he's battered, his jaw scabbed from Officer Kyle Brantley's fist, his leg limping from Tom Hicks's stomp, the roadside beating and bomb a scar he wears. Brantley's locked, 10 years, Hicks loose, his rally sparking the blast that killed 3 cops, Malcolm's win. Court, survival, a spark he's fanning into a fire, his badge a weapon against their racist hate. It's 10 sharp, the command. Center pulsing, radios crackling, officers barking, when Lieutenant Grace Palmer strides in, her uniform crisp, her dark eyes sharp, her Hicks's prints, substation, a lifeline Malcolm grips, her clipboard slamming down, maps pinned, with red dots Decatur 10 miles east. He's hiding, witness saw him, she says, her 40-year-old frame taut, her voice a whip, and Malcolm's calm steadies, his fist unclenching, blood scabs flaking from his knuckles. Lead the manhunt. SWAT now, he orders, his tone steel, his arm sling tightening as he grabs his Glock, ribs flaring but ignored. Hicks's Everett's next, a taunt he'll crush, his city teetering, his fight reigniting. By 11, SWAT rolls, 6 vans, black engines growling, Malcolm in the lead, his pistol holstered, Grace beside him, her "we've got him" fierce, her radio buzzing, Hicks's shack, a rundown box off a dirt road, intel solid. Atlanta sleeps, its skyline dark, but Decatur's woods wake. Tires crunch gravel, headlights cut fog, SWAT spilling out, vests gleaming, rifles up. Malcolm limps forward, his Glock drawn, ribs screaming, his move in a growl, the shack's windows dark, its door ajar, Hicks's hate a pulse he feels. They breach, doors crash, flashbangs burst, smoke curling, and Hicks erupts, his stocky frame lunging, a shotgun blazing. "You'll pay, black bastard," a war cry as bullets rip wood, SWAT diving, Malcolm's shot grazing Hicks's arm. Blood spraying. The shack's a chaos pit, tables flip, glass shatters, Hicks firing wild, his brown eyes wild with rage, his "I'll end you," a roar as SWAT returns fire. bullets pinging, Malcolm ducking, his sling tearing, ribs cracking under strain. Grace flanks, her pistol barking, her down, chief, sharp as Hicks swings, shotgun blasting a wall, plaster raining, Malcolm rolling, his Glock steady. 2 shots, Hicks's leg, chest, blood blooms, the shotgun clatters, his bulk collapsing, ranting, "You're dead." As SWAT swarms, cuffs snapping, his arm twisted, his hate caged again. Malcolm standing, blood dripping from a grazed cheek. His win a thud, he feels. His city his, he thinks. Hicks is hauled out, cuffed, bleeding, spitting Grace, barking, "Lock him up." Her 40-year frame a wall, SWAT dragging him to a van. His "this ain't over" a hiss through gritted teeth. Malcolm's Glock lowering, his arm throbbing, ribs afire he ignores. Atlanta PD rallies, precinct secured. Brantley's 10 years. A lock. Hicks's life looming, Malcolm's back commanding, his reforms rolling. Bias training mandated, racist cops fired. Grace's "we've got control," a vow he trusts. He's home by dawn. Lena's arms tight. Maya's daddy's safe a balm. His badge gleaming, his fight won. Public support surging, he thinks. Their hate a ghost he's banished, his city breathing free. But it's a pause, not peace. Noon. Hits breaks free. A prison van ambushed, guards dead. His Everett's next, scrawled in blood on asphalt. His racist crew, Brantley's old squad, torching a black church 10 miles south, flames roaring. "Chief's next," graffitied. On charred brick, sirens wailing as Malcolm races over, his sling off, ribs screaming. Grace's cruiser screeching beside him. "They're escalating," she growls, her voice raw, wreckage smoking pews ash. Lives spared but shaken, and Malcolm's arm trembles, his badge a target. His win a spark they've fanned into a blaze, a bomb, a break, a church meaner, bloodier. Their hate a storm he can't quench yet. Does Malcolm's manhunt show he's a chief who can outfight their racism? Or is Hicks's breakout proof their hate's a beast he can't kill? Comment: Number 1, if you think Malcolm's stronger. Then their worst, hit like if you're fired up for his stand, and subscribe for the next explosive chapter. The battle's raging, don't miss the next move. Now buckle up for a twist. Hicks is loose again, torching everything. How's he about to turn Malcolm's hard-won victory into a fiery trap that threatens it all? Stay tuned for the inferno ahead. The Atlanta morning unfolds under a gray, overcast sky, 3 days after Tom Hicks's prison break and the church torching. The air cool at 58 degrees as Malcolm Everett sits in his precinct office, a stark box of wood and glass overlooking the city's restless sprawl. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to wield with quiet resolve, now battered, his left arm free of its sling but stiff from Kyle Brantley's bat, his ribs tender from Hicks's kick, the roadside beating and ambush a scar he carries. Hicks is loose. Brantley locked for 10 years. The substation bombed, the church ash, Malcolm's manhunt flipping their racist hate into a victory he thinks holds. His badge a battered shield. It's 7 sharp, the precinct humming, officers shuffling, phones ringing, when Lieutenant Grace Palmer strides in. Her uniform crisp, her dark eyes sharp with urgency, her clipboard thick with reports. Hicks's prints, church wreckage, his Everett's next, a blood-scrawled vow. "We're closing in," she says, her 40-year-old frame taut, her voice steady, and Malcolm nods, his jaw tight, ribs aching, his keep pushing firm, his navy suit patched but pressed, a testament to his stand. He's back, commanding. His reforms, bias training, firings, a lifeline he's forged. Grace's "we've got your back," a rock he leans on. Atlanta PD rallying, his win solid he thinks, their hate a fire he's doused. Then the cracks show. By 9, whispers buzz, officers glancing, Captain Lee Rawls strolls in. A 50-year-old white man, burly, grey hair thinning, his uniform starched, his blue eyes cold as he leans against Malcolm's desk, his morning chief a drawl thick with edge. Rawls is Brantley's mentor, Hicks's too, a precinct veteran who's dodged every reform. His "no black man leads me," a mutter Grace caught weeks back, ignored then, loud now. "Heard about Hicks," Rawls says, casual, his smirk faint. "Shame we can't nail him." And Malcolm's calm steadies, his "we will" steel, sensing the jab. His ribs a dull throb, his arms stiff but ready. Noon hits, and the trap springs. Grace bursts in. Her IA's got something, a hiss. Her clipboard slamming down, a report. Drugs, cocaine bagged in Malcolm's office drawer. "Chief's dirty," scrawled in Rawls's hand. Malcolm's stomach drops, his desk pristine. His "that's" planted sharp, his voice firm. Grace's Rawls a growl, her dark eyes blazing. Internal Affairs swarms Captain Danvers, gruff white smoker's rasp leading. His "you're suspended, Everett, investigation pending," a gut punch. Malcolm's badge a target, not a shield. His win, manhunt, reforms crumbling. Rawls's smirk a blade as he watches from the hall. His racist game flipping Malcolm's fight into a noose. Evidence piles, cocaine dusted with Malcolm's prints. Forced, a setup Rawls rigged. His "caught you," a whisper to Brantley's crew. Hicks's church fire a distraction. Grace digs. Her Rawls leaked Hicks's route, a lifeline. Precinct logs tampered. Her 40-year frame pacing. Her "will prove it" fierce. But Danvers cuffs Malcolm. His step out cold. Precinct officers staring. Trust fracturing. Lena's call. What's happening? A plea, Myers' daddy, a stab. He's escorted out, his suit a banner, ribs screaming, thinking he's beaten them. Grace's fight a spark, Rawls arrested by dusk, cuffed. His "you're done" a snarl as evidence clears. Cocaine traced, suspension lifting. Malcolm's win clawing back, he thinks. Reinstatement looms, 8 sharp next day. Precinct humming. Grace's Rawls's allies are quiet. A vow. Malcolm's office reclaimed, his badge gleaming. Atlanta, PD steadying, his reforms law, he thinks, justice rooted. Then night falls, 10 sharp, and the storm breaks. Their hate a blade slashing deeper, bloodier. A bomb rips his home, a brick ranch in East Atlanta. Flames roaring, glass shattering. Lena injured. Blood streaming from her arm. Maya screaming, "Mommy!" as Malcolm drags them out, his ribs cracking anew. His "get down!" a roar. Fire. Licking walls, smoke choking. His family the cost, a note in the rubble. Resign or she dies. Grace screeches in, her cruiser smoking. Her Rawls's crew a hiss. Her 40-year frame hauling Lena to safety. Ortiz, his arm healed, pulling Maya, Malcolm's arm trembling, ribs afire, his win rubble. Their racist hate a bomb bigger, uglier, a storm he can't outrun yet. The Atlanta twilight casts a dim, heavy veil over a sprawling warehouse district, 4 nights after the bombing of Malcolm Everett's home. The air thick with diesel fumes and cooling asphalt at 62 degrees as he crouches behind a rusted shipping container, his Glock gripped tight, his left arm stiff from Kyle Brantley's bat, his ribs a pulsing ache beneath a bulletproof vest. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to hold with quiet resolve, now battered, his jaw scabbed, his leg limping from Tom Hicks's stomp, the roadside beating, ambush and firebomb scars he wears. Rawls's arrest flipped their frame up. Malcolm's reinstatement a win he thought solid, but Hicks's prison break and Lena's bloodied arm shattered that. Their racist note, "resign or she dies." A noose he's cutting free. It's 7. Sharp? The warehouse a hulking shadow. Its metal walls dented, windows cracked as Malcolm tracks Hicks' intel pinning him here. A rat's nest 10 miles north of the precinct. Lieutenant Grace Palmer flanks him, her uniform dark, her 40-year frame low, her pistol ready. Her "he's inside" a whisper, her dark eyes sharp with resolve, SWAT fanning out, vests gleaming, rifles up. Malcolm's ribs flare, his move now firm, his badge a glint under the vest. Lena safe with Ortiz, Myers "be careful, daddy." A fire he stokes, his win teetering, he thinks. Hicks's hate a beast he'll end tonight. They breach. SWAT kicking doors, steel clanging, flashbangs bursting, smoke curling as Hicks erupts, his stocky frame leaping from a catwalk, a shotgun blasting, "Die, black scum!" A war cry ripping the air, bullets pinging metal, SWAT diving. Malcolm's Glock barking, a shot grazing Hicks's shoulder, blood spraying. The warehouse roars, crates toppling, glass shattering, Hicks firing wild, his brown eyes wild with fury. His "you're done!" A roar as SWAT returns fire, bullets shredding wood. Malcolm lunging, his ribs screaming. Grace's cover left, sharp as Hicks swings, shotgun blasting a stack, splinters raining. Malcolm fires, 2 shots, Hicks's. Leg, arm, blood blooming, the shotgun clattering, his bulk staggering, ranting, "I'll end you!" As SWAT closes, boots pounding. Hicks bolts limping, his shotgun gone. A knife flashing from his belt, 6 inches, serrated, slashing wild as he charges Malcolm, his black pig, a snarl, blade nicking Malcolm's vest, sparks flying, pain, flaring as it grazes his arm, blood trickling. Malcolm twists, his Glock dropping, his fist cracking Hicks's jaw, a thud echoing, Hicks reeling, knife swinging, Malcolm dodging, his ribs afire, his "it's over," a growl as he tackles, pinning Hicks, knee on his chest, blood pooling, SWAT swarming, cuffs snapping, Hicks's never. A hiss through gritted teeth, his hate caged, Malcolm standing, blood dripping. His win a thud he feels, he thinks. Cops flood in, 20 strong, rifles up, Grace barking, "Secure him!" Her 40-year frame a wall, Hicks hauled up, cuffed. Tight, his arm twisted, his "You're dead" a fading snarl as they drag him out, his boots scraping. Malcolm's Glock retrieved, his arm trembling, ribs ablaze he ignores. Atlanta PD rallies, precinct on alert. Rawls's crew surrenders, caught in a sweep. Their "we're done" a mutter as cuffs snap. Malcolm's badge gleaming, his fight won. Public support surging, he thinks. Hicks's knife a relic, their racist storm a wind he's stilled. Atlanta his again, he's home by dawn. Lena's arms tight, her arm bandaged. Maya's hug a balm, precinct secure. Rawls locked, Hicks's life sentence stacking. Malcolm's reforms law, bias training, firings. Grace's "we've got control," a vow he trusts. Atlanta cheers, citizens rallying, his win solid, he thinks. Their hate a ghost he's banished, his city breathing free, his family safe, a victory rooted deep. But it's a root with rot. Noon hits, Hicks's followers strike. A dozen strong Rawls's old squad kidnapping Lena from her office. A downtown high-rise, glass doors smashed. Her scream cut short as they drag her out, live stream flickering on, her face bruised. A knife. At her throat, their "quit or she's dead" a demand blasting screens. Malcolm's office a tomb, Grace's "they've got her" a gasp, his ribs roaring, his win a hostage. Their racist hate a gun cocked, fiercer, deadlier, a storm he can't outrun yet. Does Malcolm's takedown of Hicks prove he's a chief? Who can crush their racism? Or does Lena's kidnapping show their hate will always hit harder? Comment number 1 if you think Malcolm's grit outshines their worst. Hit like if you're rooting for his fight. And subscribe for the next explosive turn. The stakes are sky high, so don't miss out. Now, prepare for a shockwave. Lena's life hangs by a thread. What desperate move will Malcolm make to flip this brutal trap into a chance to save her? Get ready for the chaos to erupt. The Atlanta night blankets a rural expanse 15 miles south of the city, 2 days after Lena Everett's kidnapping. The air sharp at 55 degrees as Malcolm Everett crouches behind a weathered oak, his Glock gripped tight, his left arm aching from past blows, his ribs pulsing beneath a bulletproof vest strapped over a black tactical jacket. He's 45 black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to hold with quiet resolve, now battered. His jaw scabbed from Kyle Brantley's fist, his leg limping from Tom Hicks's stomp, the roadside beating, ambush and firebomb scars he carries. Hicks's warehouse takedown flipped their racist hate into a victory he thought held. But the live stream of Lena, knife at her throat, "quit or she's dead," shattered that. Rawls's crew striking from shadows, Malcolm's badge a target. He's turning into a blade. It's 8 sharp. A crumbling barn looms ahead, its wood walls splintered, tin roof sagging, as Malcolm tracks Hicks's crew, intel pinning them here, a pig farm stench cloaking their hideout. Lieutenant Grace Palmer flanks him, her 40-year frame low, her pistol ready. Her dark eyes sharp with resolve, there inside a whisper, SWAT fanning out, vests gleaming, rifles up, their boots silent on damp earth. Malcolm's ribs flare, his breech now firm. Lena's bruised face on that screen of fire he stokes. Maya's "save mommy" a vow he keeps, his win teetering, he thinks. Hicks's hate a beast he'll end tonight. They move, SWAT kicking, doors wood splintering, flashbangs bursting, smoke curling as Hicks's men erupt. 6 strong, rifles blazing. Kill the black bastard. A war cry ripping the air, bullets pinging metal, SWAT diving, Malcolm's Glock barking, a shot clipping, a man's shoulder, blood spraying. The barn roars, hay bales toppling, glass shattering, Hicks's crew firing wild, their eyes wild with fury. There, he's done. A roar as SWAT returns fire, bullets shredding wood, Malcolm lunging, his ribs screaming, Grace's cover right. Sharp as a thug swings, rifle blasting a wall, splinters raining. Malcolm fires 2 shots, leg, chest, blood blooming, the rifle clattering, 1 down, 5 to go, chaos a storm he cuts through. Hicks looms, his stocky frame leaping from aloft, a shotgun blasting, his brown eyes wild, his black scum. A snarl as he charges Malcolm, pellets grazing Malcolm's vest, sparks flying, pain flaring as they nick his arm, blood trickling. Malcolm twists, his Glock steady, his drop it a growl as Hicks swings, shotgun barrel clipping Malcolm's shoulder, agony exploding, ribs cracking anew, Grace's pistol barking, her down, sharp as Hicks stumbles, blood seeping from his arm, his crew faltering, SWAT closing, boots pounding. Malcolm lunges, his shot piercing Hicks's leg, bone shattering, blood pooling, Hicks collapsing, his "you're dead." A hiss as Malcolm kicks the shotgun free, his knee pinning Hicks, vest tearing, his win a thud he feels, he thinks. Lena's inside, tied, bruised, her scream muffled as SWAT breaches deeper. Malcolm rising, his Glock up, ribs afire, his hold. On? A roar as he charges, Hicks's men firing, bullets pinging. Grace's left flank guiding, SWAT downing 2, blood splashing hay, 3 left there, kill him. A chant fading as rifles jam, panic sets. Malcolm spots her, bound to a post, her arm bleeding, her eyes wide. His Lena a cry as he shoots. 1 thug's chest, another's arm, blood blooming, Grace's pistol finishing the 3rd, their bodies slumping, silence falling, SWAT cutting. Ropes, Lena freed, bloodied but alive. Her arms clutching Malcolm, his "you're safe" as sob he chokes. Cops flood in, 20 strong, rifles up, Grace barking, "Secure them!" Her 40-year frame a wall. Hicks hauled up, cuffed tight, his leg twisted, his "I'll kill you!" A fading snarl as they drag him out, his boots scraping, Malcolm's Glock lowering, his arm trembling, ribs ablaze he ignores. Atlanta PD rallies, precinct on lockdown, Rawls's crew crushed, Hicks's death row looming, Malcolm's badge gleaming, his fight won, public support surging, he thinks. Lena's tears a balm, Maya's hug waiting, their racist storm a wind. He's stilled. Atlanta his again. He's home by dawn, Lena's arms tight, her arms stitched, Maya's mommy's back a warmth, precinct secure, Rawls locked, Hicks's death sentence stacking, Malcolm's reforms law, bias training, firings. Grace's "we've got control" of how he trusts. Atlanta cheers, citizens rallying. His win solid, he thinks. Their hate a ghost he's banished, his city breathing free, his family whole, a victory rooted deep. But it's a root uprooted. Noon hits. A racist governor acts, his voice smooth. On TV, Hicks was framed, a good cop wronged, pardoning him, freeing Brantley too. Justice restored, his mob firebombing precincts, 3 blazing, chief's reign ends. Scrawled in ash, sirens wailing as Malcolm races over, his arm free, ribs roaring. Grace's cruiser screeching beside him, his win a spark they've fanned into a monstrous blaze, a storm he can't outrun yet. The Atlanta dawn paints a smoky haze over the city, 3 days after Lena Everett's rescue. The air acrid with ash at 50 degrees as Malcolm Everett stands in his precinct office, a stark box of splintered wood and cracked glass, his left, arm stiff from old blows, his ribs pulsing beneath a navy suit stretched over a bulletproof vest. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to wield with quiet resolve, now battered, his jaw scabbed from Kyle Brantley's fist, his leg limping from Tom Hicks's stomp, the roadside beating, ambush, and firebomb scars he wears. Hicks's barn takedown and Lena's freedom flipped their racist hate into a victory he thought held. But the governor's pardon, Hicks and Brantley freed, unleashed precinct bombings. Malcolm's win a spark in a blaze he's battling to quench. It's 6 sharp, the precinct a fortress, sandbags stacked, officers armed. When Lieutenant Grace Palmer strides in, her 40-year frame taut, her uniform singed, her dark eyes sharp with resolve, her clipboard thick with reports. 3. Precincts torched, Hicks's mob swelling, his chief's reign ends. A rallying cry. "Governor's stonewalling," she says, her voice firm, her fist clenching, and Malcolm's calm steadies, his jaw tight, ribs aching, his "expose him" steel, his badge a glint against chaos, Lena safe with Maya at Ortiz's, his fight a fire he stokes. Atlanta teeters, his reforms, bias training, firings, law he thinks, their hate a beast he's caging. By noon, evidence cracks, Grace's dig unearthing gold, tapes from a whistleblower, the governor's voice smooth, "Keep blacks down," a confession caught on a precinct bug, Malcolm's "We've got him" a growl as he leaks it, news stations blasting, "Governor's racist plot." The city erupts, protests flood Peachtree Street, citizens chanting, "Resign." Their signs are tied. Malcolm's office a war room, screens flickering, his arm throbbing, ribs protesting. His wind surging, he thinks. Hicks rearrested in a raid, cuffed tight, his stocky frame slouched, his brown eyes wild. His "You're dead," a fading snarl as SWAT drags him. Brantley locked too. Atlanta PD rallying, reforms rooting deeper. Dusk falls, 8 sharp. The governor quits. His "I'm stepping down" a whimper on live TV. Disgrace swallowing his pardon. Hicks's death. Rowe reinstated. Brantley's 10 years firm. Malcolm's reinstatement cemented, his badge gleaming. Grace's "We've won" a vow he trusts. Atlanta cheers, citizens flooding precinct steps. "Chief Everett!" A chorus, his fight a victory he thinks holds. Lena's smile at home, Maya's hug, reforms law. Bias training mandatory, racist cops purged. Their hate a ghost he's banished. His city breathing free, a triumph he's forged from ash. But it's a triumph with a trap. Midnight strikes and chaos explodes. Rawls's old squad, a rogue faction, Brantley's loyalists staging a coup, seizing headquarters, 30 strong, rifles up. No black chief rules. A war cry shattering glass as they storm in. Precinct doors barricaded, officers gunned down, 3 dead, blood pooling on tile. Malcolm trapped inside, his Glock drawn, his arm trembling, ribs roaring. Grace pinned across the hall, her 40-year. Frame ducked behind a desk, her "Hold them." A shout swallowed by gunfire. Hicks's mob joins, freed thugs, their "Kill Everett." A chant as bullets rip walls. Malcolm firing, 1 down, blood splashing. His win a siege, he thinks, their racist hate a war machine crushing his stand. The precinct's a slaughterhouse, desks splintered, screens sparking. Malcolm dodging, his Glock barking, 2 more down, blood pooling, Grace's pistol blazing. Her backup's coming. A lifeline as SWAT nears, sirens wailing, his arm afire, ribs cracking, his push back. A roar he clings to, Atlanta PD buckling, his fight teetering. Their hate bigger, bloodier, a storm he can't outrun yet. The Atlanta precinct lies under siege at midnight, its concrete walls shuddering with gunfire. The air sharp at 50 degrees as Malcolm Everett crouches behind a shattered desk, his Glock gripped tight, his left arm pulsing from old wounds, his ribs screaming beneath a bulletproof vest soaked with sweat and blood. He's 45 black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to hold with quiet resolve, now battered, his jaw scabbed from Kyle Brantley's fist, his leg limping from Tom Hicks's stomp, the roadside beating, ambush and firebomb scars he wears. Rawls's rogue faction seized headquarters, their coup a racist storm, 3 officers down, Hicks's mob joining, Malcolm's win, Lena's rescue, governor's fall, a spark they've fanned into a war, his badge a battered shield he's turning into a sword. It's 12:15, the precinct a war zone, glass crunching under boots, screens sparking, as Malcolm tracks the faction, 30 strong, rifles blazing, "No black chief rules," a chant ripping the air. Lieutenant Grace Palmer flanks him, her 40-year frame low behind a toppled cabinet, her pistol steady, her dark eyes sharp with resolve. Her SWATs close, a whisper, blood trickling from her grazed arm, officers pinned, 5 left, their shots sporadic. Malcolm's ribs flare, his "Hold them" firm, His Glock barking, a rogue's shoulder bursting, blood spraying. His wind teetering, he thinks. Their hate a beast he'll end tonight. The faction surges, rifles spitting, bullets pinging steel. As Rawls's lieutenant, Ben Tate, 40, white, wiry, leads. His buzz cut glinting, his blue eyes wild, his kill Everett, a roar guiding 10 toward Malcolm's desk. Grace fires, 2 down, blood pooling, her left flank. Sharp as Tate charges, rifle blasting, wood splintering, Malcolm's shot clipping Tate's arm. Blood blooming. Tate's black scum. A snarl as he swings, rifle butt cracking Malcolm's vest, pain exploding, ribs snapping anew. Malcolm twists, his Glock steady, his drop it a growl as he fires. Tate's chest blood gushing, Tate collapsing, his rifle clattering, faction faltering. Malcolm's win a thud he feels, he thinks. Hicks breaks free, his cell breached. In the chaos, a stocky shadow leaping from a hall, a knife flashing, 6 inches serrated from his fist, his brown eyes wild, his dye black pig. A war cry as he charges Malcolm, blade slashing, nicking Malcolm's arm, blood trickling, pain flaring as Hicks drives it toward his throat, vest tearing. Malcolm staggers, his Glock slipping, his fist cracking Hicks's jaw, a thud echoing, Hicks reeling, knife swinging. Malcolm dodging, his ribs afire, his "it's over," a roar as he lunges, tackling Hicks, knee on his chest, blood pooling, Hicks's "never." A hiss as Malcolm's shot pierces Hicks's shoulder, bone shattering, Hicks slumping, his knife skittering. Malcolm's win a pulse he clings to. SWAT breaches, doors crash, boots pound, 20 strong, rifles up, Grace barking, "Clear it." Her 40-year frame rising, her pistol blazing, faction firing wild. 5 down, blood splashing tile, there, hold them. A fading chant as SWAT closes, bullets shredding walls. Malcolm standing, his Glock up, ribs ablaze, his end this firm as he shoots. Faction leader, Jake Morse, 40, white, burly, chest bursting, blood gushing, Morse's rifle clattering. His no a gurgle as he falls. Faction crumbling, 10 left, rifles dropping, hands up. There we're done, a mutter swallowed by sirens. Malcolm's win solid, he thinks. Cops flood in, 30 strong, rifles steady, Grace barking, "Secure." Them. Her 40-year frame a wall, Hicks hauled up, cuffed tight, his shoulder twisted, his "You're dead." A fading snarl as they drag him out, his boots scraping, faction cuffed, their racist storm stilled. Malcolm's Glock lowering, his arm. Trembling, ribs afire he ignores. Atlanta PD rallies, precinct reclaimed, Rawls's crew crushed, Hicks's death sentence stacking, Malcolm's badge gleaming, his fight won, public support surging, he thinks, Lena safe, Maya's hug waiting. Reforms law, bias training, firings, Grace's we've got control of how he trusts. Atlanta his, a victory rooted deep. He's home by dawn, Lena's arms tight, her stitches fresh. Maya's daddy's back a balm, precinct secure, Rawls locked, Hicks's end a lock. Malcolm's reforms law, Atlanta cheering, citizens rallying. His win solid, he thinks. Their hate a ghost he's banished. His city breathing free, a triumph forged from blood and ash. Hicks's death a full stop, he believes. Justice a wall they can't breach, but it's a wall with a crack. Noon hits, a fake video leaks. Malcolm executing Hicks edited from precinct chaos. His Glock's shot twisted, blood added, viral on screens. Chief's a killer, a chant swelling. Hicks's mob reborn, wilder, deadlier. Malcolm's win a lie they've flipped, a storm he can't outrun yet. The Atlanta morning unfolds under a pale winter sun, 5 weeks after the precinct showdown. The air crisp at 48 degrees as Malcolm Everett stands in his office, a restored box of polished wood and fresh glass overlooking a city breathing. Easier. His left arm healed but stiff, his ribs a faint ache beneath a charcoal suit tailored sharp. He's 45, black, broad-shouldered, Atlanta's police chief. 3 weeks into a role he's fought to hold with quiet resolve, now tempered, his jaw scabbed from Kyle Brantley's fist, his leg steady despite Tom Hicks's stomp, the roadside beating, ambush and firebomb scars he carries. Hicks's death, Malcolm's shot in the standoff, flipped their racist hate into a victory he thought held. Rawls's faction crushed, Lena safe, his badge a shield forged in blood. His win a wall, he believes. It's 9 sharp, the precinct, humming, officers bustling, phones ringing. When Lieutenant Grace Palmer strides in, her 40-year frame relaxed, her uniform crisp, her dark eyes bright with triumph, her clipboard light with reports, rolls locked, Hicks's mob scattered. Reforms law, bias training mandatory, racist cops purged. "Atlanta's yours," she says, her voice firm, her fist unclenching, and Malcolm nods, his jaw easing, ribs quiet. His "we did it" steel, his badge gleaming, Lena's smile at home, Maya's hug a warmth he clings to. Citizens cheer, protests turned rallies. "Chief Everett!" Say chorus, his fight a victory he thinks rooted. Their hate a ghost he's banished, his city free, a triumph he's forged from ash and grit. Then the tide turns. By noon a video leaks, grainy, edited. Malcolm executing Hicks, his Glocks. Shot in the precinct, chaos twisted, blood splattered. Hicks's pleas dubbed viral on screens. "Chief's a killer," a chant swelling across Atlanta's digital sprawl. Malcolm's stomach drops, his office a tomb. Grace's "it's fake" a hiss, her 40-year frame pacing, her clipboard slamming down, news blasting. Police chief murderer? His win, Hicks's death, faction crushed. A lie they've flipped, wilder, deadlier. His badge a target, not a shield. Atlanta PD buckling, officers glancing, trust fracturing. Lena's call. "What's this?" A plea. Maya's "Daddy?" A stab dusk falls, sick sharp, and the storm breaks. Hicks's widow, Ellen, 42, blonde, gaunt, steps onto City Hall steps, her dress black, her voice smooth on live TV. "Avenge my husband." A war cry, the fake video her flag. Malcolm's "Hey murderer," her slogan. "Chief's reign ends." A chant swelling, red hats rallying, hundreds strong. Brantley freed, 10 years pardoned, his lean frame beside her, his blonde buzz cut glinting, his blue eyes wild. Rawls reinstated, his burly frame looming, his "cleanse the force" avow echoing. Their racist hate a tide Malcolm can't stem. Ellen runs for mayor, justice for Hicks. Her campaign a noose, his "I am enough" a judge-stunning win now her banner. Flipped, sharpened, slicing him open. By 8 she wins, landslide, polls crashing, her "Atlanta's ours." Her victory speech blasting screens. Malcolm's office a crypt, Grace's "will fight" a gasp. Her 40-year frame slumping, precinct officers turning. Rawls's "you're out" a smirk as he strides in, his badge gleaming. Brantley's "chief's done" a taunt. Ellen's "resign" an order. Malcolm indicted, murder fabricated, cuffs snapping, his badge stripped, his fight lost. Atlanta hers. Racism's reign uglier, fiercer, a storm he can't outrun. He's escorted out, his suit a ruin, ribs throbbing. Lena's tears at home. Maya's hug a memory, his win. Hicks's end, reforms. Her throne, a victory flipped into her crown. Night deepens, 10 sharp. Precinct a shadow as Malcolm sits in a cell, concrete cold, his hands steady despite the weight. Grace locked out, her will appeal a whisper through bars. Atlanta PD hers, Ellen's Rawls commanding, Brantley's crew swelling, reforms gutted, bias training scrapped, racist cops rehired, their hate a machine he built, dismantled, rebuilt stronger. He's ousted, his "I am enough" a ghost she's claimed, his city a battlefield he's lost, their triumph a storm he can't dodge yet. Malcolm Everett's journey through Atlanta's racist crucible reveals brutal truths about resilience, power, and betrayal. First, courage holds even when the ground crumbles. Malcolm's stand against Brantley and Hicks, his Glock ending Hicks, proves a chief's grit can defy fists, bats, and bombs, a spark enduring chaos. His every counter, manhunt, rescue, shows strength isn't rank, it's will, unyielding against slurs and setups. Second, racism's roots run deep. Brantley's beatings, Hicks's bombs, Rawls's sabotage morphed into a governor's pardon, a mayor's throne, a system bending to shield their hate, not break it. Malcolm faced it. Black trash, no black chief, each strike uglier, proving prejudice adapts, relentless, a beast feeding on power. Third, allies anchor. Grace's fight, Lena's survival gave Malcolm shots he couldn't take alone. A chorus lifting his voice when it faltered. But the twist cuts deepest. Victory's a shadow when hate hijacks truth. Malcolm's "I am enough" stunned a judge, won his city. only for Ellen to flip it. His win her weapon reforms gutted. Atlanta hers. A lesson that justice bends under corruption's weight. This isn't just his story, it's a mirror. Racism a storm communities face. Malcolm's battle screaming, stand even when it flips, even when it burns. What's your take? Can Malcolm's resilience reclaim what Ellen stole, or does her rise prove hate's too entrenched to topple? Comment number 1 if you think his spirit outlasts their worst. Hit like if you're fired up for justice, and subscribe and share to fuel this fight. Thanks for riding this wild saga with us. Here's to strength rising from every fall, to every voice breaking through the storm.